Awesome music people. We have John Fantana here. What's up, dude? Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Happy to be here.
So, man, when I first started this show and I was looking for guests and trying to figure out how this whole podcast was going to go, I came across your page, Awesome Music Love, which we'll get into here in a second. But, you're the first non-artist, I would say, or you are an artist, which we'll also talk about, but you're the first non-artist here on the show, which I'm excited for because the whole intention of this is to talk to literally anybody and everybody in the scene. And it's not about just musicians, but it's about who has made the culture and scene what it is, and people like yourselves who continued to develop it. So first, I want to kind of dive into who you are as an individual. So, John Fantana, where you from, man?
So I'm from the Valley. So in Texas, the Valley. I'm talking about South Texas, the bottom tip of Texas, down there in the 956.
Amen.
And I'm from a little small town called Los Fresnos. You might not have heard of it, but it's close to Brownsville, kind of the Brownsville McAllen area is the Valley. So I grew up in a little small place. We didn't have internet growing up. We had, a mile to the nearest farm road, a lot of sorghum fields, stuff like that. And yeah, I just grew up. I grew up there in a really simple life. Did everything my brother wanted to do. My older brother, so he started
Okay.
playing guitar. I started playing guitar,
Yeah.
and he joined band. I joined band. I was pretty obsessed with music all throughout high school, and yeah, that's where I come from. And then I went to UT, and that's how I got to Austin.
Okay. All right. And what year was this?
UT, I started in 20. Let's see, 2014.
Okay. All right. And then, so growing up down in the valley, did you ever, obviously, a lot of Tejano, Conjunto, everything like there.
Oh
So
yeah.
were you in any of those types of bands, or did you enjoy that type of music, or was it like, I'm sick of this place, let me get out of here?
No, I love mariachi and
Yeah.
all that stuff down there. I mean, you can't get away from it. I still love hearing it.
Yep.
The place where I live, not too far from here, my neighbors blasting that stuff every Saturday night as
Love
a
it.
party.
Yeah.
It feels just like the Valley, honestly. So yeah,
That's
when I
awesome.
when I was in high school, I would play in mariachi
Oh,
bands.
yeah.
I play trumpet. Yeah,
Awesome. Were you in the full get up and
yeah,
everything? That's, man,
yeah.
that's
Every high
awesome.
school down there has a mariachi.
Yeah, yeah. My neighbor was telling me he's from the valley as well, and he was telling me how, I guess there was a Netflix documentary about mariachi competitions across the country, and
Oh yeah,
there was one. Maybe they're from McCallum, that had won some national competition like years and years and years. They
yeah,
just kept winning, but yeah, it's a big deal down there for sure. That's fun.
yeah. And it's super fun music.
All right, so you moved to Austin for college, and so at that point, was the did you have a draw to Austin because of the music, or you just where you wanted to study at UT?
So I had a actually so I had a different musical reason for going to Austin.
Okay,
Initially, I went to school for French horn. I was a French horn player,
okay.
and I thought I wanted to do that. Then I realized I did not like playing orchestras. And I don't know if you know about French horn, but the thing you do
Uh,
if you play French horn is play in an orchestra.
okay,
So once I got a taste of that, I was like, okay, I don't really want to do this.
yep.
And
Wasn't gonna get the cool sticker. Is that
I
what
don't
you're
know.
looking
I
for?
mean, it's really I wasn't really after that at all. I've never been a cool guy
I like it.
personally, but I was a band nerd, but I just didn't love being in an orchestra, to be honest with you. So, anyways, I decided I'm not going to
Okay,
major in music, and then I need to figure out what I'm going to do. So, at the time, I was actually part of an organization called Genesis Drum and Bugle Corps,
okay,
and I mentioned this in something where you were asking online, like who
yeah.
should we donate to, and I
That's
mentioned it because
I was gonna thank you for that because we will be donating to them.
really,
Yes.
so actually, I just came from there yesterday because I still volunteer with them.
Okay.
They were having a camp out in Caldwell, Texas. So let me tell you about what they do,
Yeah.
basically.
Please. No. Absolutely.
So Genesis Drum Bugle Corps it's basically a non-scholastic marching band program.
Okay.
So it's a youth program. It's ages 21 and under. So kids that are in high school and college audition for these drum corps, and we happen to have one that's based in Austin, Texas, called Genesis. Every year they have world championships in August. So all summer long they basically do a summer tour of the whole country,
Hmm.
competing against other drum corps, and then that culminates in the world championships. So so this is a nonprofit organization.
All right.
Students that participate in it basically pay a tuition fees to be part of the program,
Yeah.
and there's probably about 50 of them in the United States. and
Wow.
it's is a big, like, subculture of drum corps that a lot of people don't even know exists.
I'd never heard of it.
But it's a real it's I'd say it shaped a lot of my young life, especially musically. I joined when I was 16. I was part of this drum corps for 6 years, and it's a wild thing because basically you join, as, a kid, and
Yep.
you go tour around the country, and it's just 150 kids and, like, maybe, like, 10, 20 adults that are teaching, the teachers, basically,
Okay.
this educational staff of the program, and you kind of independent. For the first time in your life, kind of going out into the world, being independent, and, it's a crazy experience. It's super fun, and it's very, educational for kids musically, but also just life.
Yep.
It's educational from a life perspective because they're just, they have to live together. You live together with other musicians on the road, and it's just like any tour,
Yeah.
any
Wow.
tour the musicians
That's a
do.
cool experience.
It's a crazy experience. So I really love it, and I donate, every month, and I volunteer when I can.
S-
Uh,
s-
and so that's the reason why I went back to Austin, is
Okay.
because the drum corps is based there, and I was doing that, and that's like, I just love it so much. I was like, I don't know what I want to do now that I'm not doing music. I don't want to do music for school, but I know I want to be close to the drum corps. So I went, and luckily I got into UT.
I mean, that's a pretty cool reason. It's a pretty authentic reason to want to be around here for sure, man. So I don't want to get too far down the line. How would somebody get involved, or how do you support drum corps the most,
So
or how can you support drum corps the most?
So obviously you can donate.
Okay.
They have, every year to run the program, it probably takes about $1 million, and probably about half of that is brought in by the tuition. So
Yep.
they have a lot of room to cover in terms of fundraising. Um, and they have different ways you can donate. Like if you want to sponsor a meal, like just to feed the drum corps
I see.
once, it's
Yeah.
probably a few $100
Mhm.
because it's a program of like 150 plus students plus staff. So, when you're on tour with them, they're feeding the kids 4 meals a day.
Yep.
And so that's one way they do it. Another way is donating instruments, which all this comes down to, like, a dollar amount donation, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
So they have,
Okay.
I think right now they're running fundraiser because they're currently raising money for a equipment trailer.
Okay.
Um, I think they're trying to raise 30 grand to buy this basically used semi and build it out, which is a great deal actually. If you ever looked into buying semis, 30
Yeah.
grand
I don't know the current market rate for semi, but that sounds about right.
yeah, no, usually if you want to build out a semi, it's more like about 100 grand.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So, excuse me. So, moved to Austin, drum corps. You were studying music at UT. So, were you in the band at UT?
I was for 1 year, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't do band every year because I don't know if you know this, but college marching band takes a lot of time.
I would imagine.
It's super fun. UT band is an amazing band. It's both super fun and highly musically proficient. It's
Yep.
really, really good program. And at the same time, they're just having fun out there. So I did it 1 year, but I decided it's too much. Like
Yeah.
the practicing, it's a lot. The game
The
days,
game days are
it's very
sun
long.
up to sundown. All right.
And I'm a busy guy. So I was like, this is awesome, guys. But
Yeah. So when you stopped being a part of the UT band, you were just focusing on school and drum corps and everything at that point.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay. And so, fast forward, you graduate college. Were you playing music in bands in college at all, or were you
So, in high school, I did a little bit of that. I
okay?
was really like a metalhead in high school. I
Nice.
like sing and play guitar in bands, but in college, not so much. In college, I was like switching to what became my career, which is software,
Hmm.
and I switched. That's why I decided to switch my major to, and so I was really focused on that. I did a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, honestly, that my main focus was drum corps until I
Got
aged
it.
out because I
Okay.
just love it so much. But I did all kinds of things. I went software. That's what I ended up doing as a career for a little while. I wrestled in college.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, I did all kinds of stuff
So,
outside of music.
but you've put some music out since then. So, I want to touch a little bit on that. So, just where did you record that music? Kind of what was your inspiration for that music? Who were your co-writers? Just kind of want to get into that a little bit.
Yeah, so really it was about a year and a half ago. I think I started releasing, and I had the songs written, so I wrote the songs, um, and I decided I gotta put these out already,
Yeah.
and I put together some kind of budget and decided, okay, I'm going to use all this 100% of this budget for promo and zero for production. So I did all my own production.
Oh, like Logic Pro at the house or
Yeah.
GarageBand or
So
something?
I
Yeah.
used Ableton mostly.
Okay. But either way, you're in your studio, aka your office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty much the guitars recorded by myself, vocals, and mellophone. I have a mellophone, which is basically a like an F bugle
Mhm.
instrument. Um, and I recorded that stuff myself. MIDI bass, MIDI drums,
Nice.
and I put the songs together until um the first collab I did, which was "Sitting by You." I did with a friend of mine, Grace O'Donovan,
Okay.
and Kendall, blanking on his last name, Kendall, saxophone player,
Okay. Are they here local Austin musicians?
local Austin
All right.
musicians.
Awesome.
So I did that first collab, and then from there I did 3 more collabs. The next one was Ruthie Kraft. You might have
Yeah.
heard of her.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
very popular around Austin.
Grayson was telling me, I think he was writing with her
Yeah,
recently. Yep.
yeah. Grace has been working with her. She's amazing. She came in. So the way I did the collabs was I wrote the song. I actually had Ruthie in the studio because I was recording her for an AML session.
Okay.
And I said, do you want you would you be interested in maybe doing a song? And she was like, yes. I was like, do you want to hear it? Do you want to hear it first? So I kind of like played it for her, kind of like, whatever. And then she was like, cool, let's do it. And then probably a month later, 2 months, I don't know. I prepared everything, wrote the arrangement, recorded everything except for saxophone, which I had another saxophone uh come in, Dalton. I'm blanking on the last names of these
It's all
saxophone
right.
players. But Dalton Mellon's song. I don't know how to say his name properly, but amazing. If you hear the song "Sweet Things" by Johnny Fantana and Ruthie Kraft, the saxophone, it's unreal. He's an unreal saxophone player.
All right.
The best I've ever heard, to be honest with you. And I used to be a jazz guy. I've seen a lot of saxophone players. He's incredible. Anyways,
That's saying something.
yeah, no,
The
I
type
highly
of folks that
recommend
you've been around.
if you just check out the song "Sweet Things" by Johnny Fantana, Ruthie Kraft. You'll see if you're on Spotify, you'll see him on the credits. But
Okay.
if you want to look him up, but he's amazing. Ruthie Kraft comes in. I basically set it up so that I have the music video ready to shoot and her spot ready to record. So she comes in. She was probably there for 3 hours. Probably in the first hour, she finished recording, and she has just come from doing this concert the night before where she was doing like Rage Against the Machine for some reason, and she kind of lost her voice. But she's. I was like, "You sure you don't want to record another day?" She was like, "Nah, I got this."
That's awesome.
She totally. She's such a professional in every single way, and so she nails it. And then we shoot the music video the same day. Um, and then yeah, so that's the way I would do all the collabs is I kind of set everything up, write everything, produce everything, and then the collab artists I just have them come in and in 2 to 4 hours get it done,
Yeah.
recording and video, and then cut it.
That's cool. So, and I know we were talking a little bit before this, but you don't necessarily have any future plans to, or you're not currently working on anything in terms of the music side?
Yeah, I'm taking a pause
Yeah.
on the music side. I kind of got out all my songs I wanted to get out.
Yeah.
I released 10 originals and one cover in kind of like a 1 year period.
Okay.
And I really want to get back to it one day, but
Yeah. You sounds like you
priorities are
kind of,
calling.
well, it sounds like you scratched the itch. Number one, number two, which is the main thing I want to talk through today is awesome music love.
Yeah,
So man, just the biggest thing I want everybody who's listening here to take away is, how they can get involved as not only a musician but as an attendee. And I kind of want to hear your backstory. So, what got you started? How did you start Austin Music Club? We'll just put it that way.
sure. Yeah. So first of all, AML Austin Music Love is a total passion project. Grew organically. It started because I was wanting to be part of the music scene. I wanted to get in, start doing stuff.
Yeah.
And at the time I wanted to start releasing my music. So I was like, let me get in there and do whatever I can. So the first thing I started with before I even had the name for it was I just had like these songwriter circles, I call them, where I just had people come to my house and we would sit in a circle and play songs for each other
Nice.
and kind of like bounce their ideas off of each other, almost
Yeah.
like a writer's room. And those became kind of popular. At first it was obviously a slow start, but I wanted to do it so that I would keep myself accountable to writing. I always wanted to keep writing to keep myself getting better.
All right.
And then as that community kind of took hold and there were people that would come every week or every month, um, I started kind of looking for more things, and organically people wanted to do different things like open mic. I did an open mic for a while. People wanted to do house
Where
concert.
where was that open mic?
That was at Thicket Food Park,
Okay.
and I ran that open mic for free for like over a year. I'm not sure how long. Um, and I because over there they don't have a music budget. At
Yeah.
least at the time they didn't. So I was like, yeah, I'll do this for free because I had people in my community that
Yeah.
wanted to do it. So I
Wanted to
was
get
like,
out there.
so let's do it. So that's kind of how it started. Similar thing with the house concerts. Um, it was just another idea of something that I knew people would like because they were in the community and they were asking for it. And um, that turned out to be like the most popular thing I think that Austin Music Love does. It's a totally, community service thing. All the money goes to the artists, and yeah, people just love it. So I never want to stop doing that one because every time I try an idea, it either works or it doesn't. And the way I know it works is when I stop doing it, people complain.
Yeah. It's a good litmus test.
Yeah, if I stop posting the event listings on Instagram, people complain. So I keep doing them.
So with the house shows or that, and I want to make sure I get the terminology right. Is it the house music series or house concert
House
series?
concert series.
Okay. So with the house concert series, how many have you done so far?
I don't even know. It's got to be 30, 40. I don't know. I do, about 5 to 10 per year.
Hmm.
Um, I think, and I've been doing them since 2022.
And where do you find a lot of the talent that you bring? And is it mainly local talent, or are you getting folks that are kind of touring and stopping
All
around
local.
town? Okay.
Yeah, all local. Um, the way I kind of selected is when I was doing the open mic, you mostly come from there. Recently I haven't been doing the open mic, so this year I decided to ask Instagram to see if anyone would submit like a almost like a Tiny Desk submission video. You know what I'm talking about? You
Hmm.
you know Tiny
Yeah.
Desk,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Like I was kind of hesitant. I didn't know if people would think it's cool or want to do it. I thought I might like just ask people to do it and no one would think it's cool and no one would do it.
Yeah.
And I would just be embarrassed and like delete the post or something. But then 100 people, over 100 people submitted a video.
Wow.
So that was awesome. I watched every single one and I kind of announced the people that I booked for this series this
Yeah.
year. And so I kind of selected them that way this year. Whoever
Okay.
was willing to make a video. First thing I did was I asked who's interested in doing a house concert. I got like 300-400 DMs
Wow.
in like a day. So I was like, okay, I can't do it this way. Let me
Right.
narrow it
Yeah.
down.
I figured
Whoever's
it
willing
out.
to make a video, and I was still thinking no one would do it, but I got some great, great people that I probably never would have noticed. It's amazing when you do booking and you run a local music promotion Instagram page, and I have 3,000 artists in my database of people that have filled out my Google form in my bio to like sign up for the things that I do,
Yeah.
and still every day I see new artists.
Yeah.
It's I estimate there's got to be a 10,000 acts in Austin at least,
It's probably a pretty accurate
because
count.
otherwise I would start to feel like I know everybody now, and I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. If you as an individual who's getting a lot of reach outs from artists don't feel like you have a solid grasp on everybody in the scene,
Yeah,
it's saying something.
there's a lot of churn.
So, you so the one I went to a couple weeks ago, what number was that in terms of this year?
That was the second one of the year.
Okay, and then how many more are you gonna have this year?
3.
So you try to average about 5 a year, you think, or is that
I've
the
been I've
current
been
plan?
doing I've been doing more in the
Okay.
past years. This year I'm a little low because I'm getting married. It's a little more busy here.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So, I mean, so what's next with Austin Music Love? I mean, I see a lot of posting that y'all do to support a lot of local acts.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally have found people I had no clue existed, obviously, just through your Instagram posts and like, hey, they're playing here. And I really like how on your stories and in your posts, you're kind of sharing not only the artist but locations. If it's 21 and over, are dogs allowed? I think that's a genius way to
Mhm.
put it out into the community, man. Um, so I guess what has been your biggest surprise or like I don't know, yeah, I guess biggest surprise is a good way to put it about putting on these series, these concert series, because obviously it sounds like the community kind of really jumped in.
I don't know. I think So it wasn't always this popular. It is really taken, especially considering I don't really promote it very much. I do like one email, one Instagram post, and I think that last one is probably like 70 people there. And I guess what it tells me about the market is that people people want to come and support music, and they're they're looking for alternative experiences. It's hard for someone to get 70 people to any regular old show, but because it's a little different, I think that makes it attractive. And I've done different kinds of stuff. I've done songwriter rounds at venues. I've done regular booking shows, kind of like listening room style shows at venues. And for some reason I think the house concert vibe, there's something to that.
Well, man, I was talking to Grayson about it, and I feel like that's what this city was built off of. And, um, you know, to make it the live music capital of the world, house concerts are mandatory, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And first, you're removing the barrier of costs, and I don't know if that's a permanent plan, but I think that helps for a lot of folks that um, whether it be costs or just getting to a show, they don't they don't want to go downtown or deal with that kind of stuff. Second, for a guy like me who has a family and has kids, it didn't run until 2 a.m., which
Hmm.
was nice. It
Yeah.
started at a perfect time where it wasn't hot outside.
Well, traffic started to die down.
Traffic was down exactly. And the other thing that I noticed was it was really people of all ages,
Yep.
all ages, creed, and color, right? And I thought that was awesome because depending on what venue you're going to in town, it's definitely catering to a certain style of or different. I mean, obviously it's genre specific sometimes, but it's either a young crowd or older crowd, or So it was a solid mix, and the two artists that you had up there were obviously tremendous, Lily Dabs and Grayson, and so I don't know. I just really appreciated the fact that I was sitting in a lawn chair listening to two really great artists
Yeah.
and kind of letting them talk a little bit. So no, that's cool. So outside of the concert series, what else does Awesome Music Love do, or
So
what's your goal for it?
so one of the other things that I'm doing right now that I'm excited about is the Lauren series.
Okay.
So there's a hotel called the Lauren Hotel, beautiful hotel, and they reached out to me last year wanting to do a listening room series. So I'm like, absolutely, because that's what I really love doing, and those listening room type experiences. So any chance I get to do that, I will. And they're just a great partner. So the listening room at the Lauren series, I'm really excited about. That's going to be continuing starting the end of this month.
Okay.
Um,
So how do you? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but do people just need to follow you on Instagram and that's how you'll release it, or does the Lauren push that, or how do folks
Yeah,
know?
Lauren will push it, but you'll find it on my Instagram.
Okay.
I'll
All right.
definitely be pushing it too because I'm I love pushing that kind of thing,
Yep.
just like the house concert series where you can go and listen to an artist
Yep.
and it's about the music and it's
Mhm.
about listening to music, just like what Reed does at Oak Hill or what it used to
Yep.
be at Oak Hill.
Right.
Um, but yeah, AML mostly does a lot of stuff behind the scenes. The stuff that's front and center on the Instagram page is stuff to help artists, help to get their releases out, get their events out, and then the house concert series, which is also community service, and then the Lauren series, which is not a community service. I get paid by them to do it, but it's a listening room experience.
Yep.
Most of the other stuff is behind the scenes, like when some restaurant hires me to book music for them. I'm
Okay.
not like posting about it,
Yeah.
and that's where AML makes money is kind of small. I should say most of the clients are of the type that they're not equipped to have music. They need someone to come and do it all. They need
Right.
someone to do the equipment, the sound, the booking from A to Z. And like for example, Sweet Green
Hmm.
would be one of my clients. Every time they have an event, they need music.
Okay. So where else around town do you book for, like Sweet Green? What other locations?
Um, it's a it's it's a number of just different restaurants and hotels and things like that. Like I said, I don't post about most of them. It's mostly just kind of behind the scenes. One of my favorite ones recently was Zed's ice cream
Mhm.
place. Really cool ice cream place down on East.
All right.
Um, they're a really cool place to check out if you haven't been there.
I haven't. I've heard of it, but
Yeah,
I've yet to go.
just take your kid.
Yeah, I need to take my son.
It's really good ice cream. My fiance loves it.
Nice.
But yeah, a lot of the stuff is behind the scenes, and I'm honest with you. I'm trying to scale back and scale into the next thing, which is just musicians.
Okay.
Because most of the way that I make money right now with Austin Music Love is time for money. I'm going to show up to set up sound, to host a show, to whatever. I'm
Yeah.
booking in the back end is also a lot of hours.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to go for this new venture and create a marketplace for people to book live music.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about at the concert series about this. I'll call it a website you're working on, and forgive me if that's not the right terminology. But so can you kind of explain what you're working on there? Because I thought it was a really cool and unique idea.
Yeah, so I'm calling it Just Musicians. It's right now live on justmusicians.com, so it is a website.
Yep.
Eventually, I think it's absolutely critical to have an app because
Yep.
a lot of people in
Okay.
this business, they're working on their phones.
Yep.
But the premise is basically Yelp for booking live music. Same way that on Yelp, if I need a plumber, I go to Yelp's. You're in the construction business, so
Hmm.
you know probably a little bit about this Angie's List Yelp. I personally use Yelp.
Yep.
If I need someone quick, I'll just go on there. You go through a little form. It's like, what's wrong with your sink?
Yeah.
When do you need this by? And then it's like, do you want us to send this to 5 other businesses? And you go, yes. And then within an hour, you have quotes, right?
Okay.
So as a booker myself, I want that experience because the way the booking normally happens, 99% of the time, is whoever's on the top of mind. Whoever's on the top of mind that fits the criteria, reach out to them. And then if the deal's done, then it's done. I'm not going to look in my database because, you know, it's just more work.
Yeah.
It's enough work as it is. Um, and that's how a lot of bookers do it. They get I don't get nearly as much incoming as say someone like the Sagebrush,
Right.
like chasing down the Sagebrush, getting 100 emails a day from bands that want to play over there.
Yeah.
And he does a really honest job, really good job of going through all those and trying to evaluate everyone. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so I'm aiming to build a product for people like him, people like even on a different end of the spectrum, like a wedding planner or even just a retail buyer that wants to hire music.
I see.
What are you going to do now? Most people will just ask around someone they know. I want to be able to have somewhere you can go online, find somebody easily, get quotes, or if you're a booker, maybe get a quote of how much draw they think they're going to bring
Hmm.
or whatever it is. So that's live right now. There are other competitor sites that are similar, but the main difference is the revenue model. So most of the sites where you can go online and find live music, they're either going to do a membership fee for you to list, like something like Wedding Wire, for example,
Okay.
or they're going to do a compulsory lead cost per lead, like Thumbtack, Bark, things like that, or they're going to do a transactional revenue. So they're actually taking transaction from the money paid for the performance.
Right.
An example of that is like Gig Finesse. Not sure if you've heard of them.
Mm.
Kind of a New York company that came in and said Austin's a cool market. Let's get in there.
Yeah.
And they have some
Sounds
share.
familiar.
They have some share in the market. So all those models, I call that more of like an Airbnb model. They're trying to take transactional revenue in one form or another,
Hmm.
and then they have to provide enough value for people to stay on the platform. Like Airbnb provides a lot of value because what? How are you going to rent your house otherwise on a short term basis? It's really hard to get demand. They basically provide demand, they provide insurance, they provide different things. So it's hard to function as a short term rental without an Airbnb like platform. However, in live music, it's very, very different. If I get a gig, I don't need the platform anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get rehired because from a booker standpoint, it's way less work for me to rehire. You know,
Yeah.
if I trust you already,
Like you said, top of mind.
yeah, if I trust they're gonna play well, they're gonna show up, all that stuff, then my job is done. I'm gonna hire them. So the best the platform can do in this business is connect people, and that's what Just Musicians aims to do. If you want to get on there and go around the platform, be my guest. You don't have to pay through the platform. There's not even a way to pay through the platform right now, but even when there is, it'll be optional. Optional escrow if you feel safer paying through the platform.
Yeah.
That's the idea with Just Musicians. If you want to just deal directly with musicians, you should be able to do that. And in doing that, it becomes more of a Yelp model where, the business doesn't pay to get listed. They'll pay for pay per click or pay per lead.
Mhm.
That's where Yelp actually makes most of their business, most of the
Okay.
revenue. It's about $1 billion a year in pay per click.
Wow.
I,
I did not.
I'm not sure if it's technically pay per lead based on the way their model works, but that's what their reports say. So um, my position is I'm gonna kind of make more of that model so we can get more of the artists on the platform. So what happens if you go to Gig Finesse or whatever, you're gonna notice there's less than like 500 musicians listed for an area like Austin,
Mhm.
which should have thousands.
Right.
And I sent one email out to ask people to sign up for Just Musicians before there was even a website up. I have 180 listings from asking people one time.
Yeah.
So one thing I've learned about doing Austin Music Love is the main way to serve the community of artists, the main thing that they're always interested in, it's basically getting gigs. So you offer them a way to get gigs, they're on board. The reason why they're not on these other websites is because they're trying to take money out of the transaction.
I see.
A little more than they can really, you know, and is really worth their service,
Yeah.
if you will.
Interesting. So, I mean, man, I have so many questions. So, where did that idea come from? Was it because of just your experience as a booker, or just dealing with artists and you had heard of their bad experiences, or like what was the genesis of that?
So it's two things. One is experience as a booker, and I'm a small time booker. I'm not even dealing with all the problems these guys, like I said, like chasing the sagebrush. People that run venues,
Yeah,
yeah, way more work.
yeah.
But just the experience of how much work this is as a booker, and also hearing like the problems from the artists. For a while, I was collecting artist reviews of venues or venue reviews by the artists that performed there,
Oh wow. Okay.
and I was
Interesting.
publishing those anonymously, and I was hearing about all those things, and I will republish that eventually on justmusicians.com. Uh, but yeah, things like uh, they said they were going to pay this, they ended up paying this. They said they didn't end up paying us. All these problems that happened. There's got to be a two-way review system going on in the
It's kind
community.
of like a glass door.
It's exactly what I called it. Is a
Okay.
glass door for music venues. That'll come back up eventually. But the other half of it was my career in software, um, and just knowing what's possible to do with technology and how this job of booking music and not only booking music, but as an artist trying to get the gigs could be just, it would be so much easier if we can make the right tool. So the way that 90% of the booking happens typically, and you can ask most of the artists that get gigs, is they send a lot of emails. So they're doing a ton of work sending a lot of emails. On the other side, they're doing a ton of work filtering through all these emails and looking for the person or whatever. And so you can easily just eliminate all that. Just make a nice directory where you can filter through people, find people, make lists of your favorite people. You know, I can go on and on about all the tools you can put together that's going to make it easier than using your Gmail account to organize this job.
So are you setting it up to where, you'll have different artists and they're tagged to different genres? So if I'm a booking agent at, I don't know, called Sea Boys, and I
Yep.
want a blues rock band, I can go there and I can go and filter every blues rock band here in Austin. I'm assuming this website is more than just Austin. You want it to be
Eventually.
eventually.
It's starting exclusively in the Austin
Okay.
area.
So so I can go through and I can filter uh, blues rock band,
Yep.
in Austin, Texas, and then if I'm a musician, what is the interface of the platform look like? It's just going to have different venues and their ratings based off previous musicians' experiences, or
So I'm hope for the basic function of the website is the artist will list themselves on the website, fill out their profiles, and then receive inquiries from
gotcha,
buyers.
gotcha.
Looking for venues, I think there could be a play there because there is a necessity, I think, to meet the market where they're at. And right now, the venues are not using a website like this to book. They're
Yeah,
doing it their own way. So in order to meet them where they're at, what I'm considering creating is an application system where a buyer, like a venue, could create an application that has the information they'd like to get that they care about for booking. Like, how much do you think you can draw on a Saturday night at
mm,
so and so club? And they could put that together on my platform and then put that on their website where they normally have booking at venue.com.
I see.
Instead, it's like, if you're interested, just fill this out. And then I can provide them with a nice way to filter through that and look through their applications instead of them having a Gmail account that they do that same thing on. And so I think I might create this application process where if you're already listed on Just Musicians and you happen to open a Just Musicians application, it'll just autofill it for you because your
Okay.
information's there. and it'll work similar to like if you sent them an email. You know, I don't think it's ever going to replace sending emails. People are always going to do
Yeah.
direct sales, but if you know artists, most of them don't want to do direct sales.
Yeah.
So offering alternatives to that, I think, is going to be very welcome from them, and I'm hoping it's also welcome from the venues who don't want to filter through the emails.
Man,
Of course, I know some of those people. I know there will be, but I hope a lot of them will be.
you're giving me a huge insight into past couple guests I've talked through the business side of music, right?
You know,
And not only is it a challenge to excuse me, be an artist and write great songs and spend the time to produce great songs and then go out and then have to push your songs, and then this whole business side of just trying to uh, and trying to make it right. It seems like it's just so much harder than it should be.
that's how everybody feels.
And I mean, but it sounds like you are actively taking steps to make it easier, at least that aspect of it easier.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a great idea. So justmusicians.com.
just musicians.
All right. So we'll drop a link in the old bio or comment section, however the heck you want to say it.
Awesome.
Not a social media guy.
Yeah,
Figuring that out myself.
caption, description.
Yeah, there you go. So outside of Awesome Music Love and your booking, where do you as a music lover and like to go around town? What are your spots?
I gotta say, I'm not gonna lie. Since I started doing this as a job, I do a lot less.
Yeah,
A lot less going
that's
out.
fair.
Yeah, a lot less going out to see music. I really love Sea Boys, one of my favorites. I really love anywhere that's just a close
Hmm.
intimate stage.
Hmm.
I mean, heck, I was over there at the freaking 812 market, you know that one?
Oh yeah,
I was so surprised they had a huge stage over there.
yeah. And
That was sick. I discovered that recently.
I will say, if anybody here listening to this show has not been to the 812 market on a Sunday afternoon, you are missing out
Yeah.
because
I
it
love
is
that one
awesome.
now because it's so close to me.
Yeah,
And the market is actually really sick too. I love stuff like that. Makes me
it's
feel
right
like at
down the
home.
street.
Yeah, it's down the street.
Yep.
But yeah, I love it. I love anything that's just like, raw and, you know, I I've been to some So Far Sound stuff. I like what they do. Have you been to some So Far
Yeah,
Sounds? I like
a
what they
couple years
do.
ago.
I've heard mixed reviews from them from artists, but I feel like you know, I think the world is a better place with them doing what they're doing.
You are pretty good at the whole social media thing. So, how do you feel like you've been able to push? And I know being a musician is not your top priority, but how have you been able to kind of crack the code and kind of get comfortable and find that stride with social media?
So the Austin Music Love social media strategy is um as follows. One, it's volume because a lot of the stuff that's going up there is automated. It's like the music releases. I'm not creating a post that is going to be shared and loved by a million people. It's a post that's very special to one specific person or
Mm,
one specific group of people, which is the band or the artist that made that song.
mm.
And so I have a lot of these posts coming out that are all special to at least one person. And that one person almost always shares it. So if every day I put out the new music releases from local artists, that's one of the things people sign up for my Google form for on my link in bio. You sign up for that, you put your Spotify information, then I'm able to get your releases and put out this graphic that says, today this person released this song on this date.
Yeah.
And I put out a carousel of all the people that released music today. And so that post may not get seen by a million people or even 1,000 people sometimes, but it will get shared
Yeah.
by that band. And sometimes it's really powerful when someone shares it who has an unactivated audience. So if that band has 1,000 followers, let's say, well, you might think that share is not that potent. It's not doesn't have a lot of
Hmm.
followers. But in reality, if that band doesn't do a lot of social media posting, then
Hmm.
all of their followers are going to see that.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because they don't post very often.
Right. Yeah.
And so because of that and similar strategy with the event listings, I'll put the event listings out, tag everybody who's playing that night or whatever. And all out of all those people, even sometimes the venues will share those things. And so people constantly see the AML logo because local bands and venues are reposting these graphics. So these posts are not like, you know, I'm trying to make a viral post.
Mhm.
I'm trying to make sure every post is special to at least one person. And then that one person, there's just a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of those.
Yeah.
So it's a volume game, and
Yeah.
it's just shouting people out. It's just me like, hey, check this person out. And that's been going for a while.
It makes a
So
lot of sense. You're not trying to cater necessarily to the masses, but you are touching the quote masses by catering to specific individuals or groups,
yeah,
one by one.
the thing is that it's it's not a go viral page, but like I was telling you, if I stop posting the event listings, people complain. Like regular people will just DM the account being like, "Hey, why aren't you guys posting event listings anymore? I used to always come here to check that out," because people are using it as a directory. Which, by the way, if you go to awesomemusiclove.com, you can find live music events on a map similar to the graphics, but on a actually UI interface on a website, and you can filter by dates and different things
Awesome.
and
All right.
genres as well. It's not the most polished website, but that's up there.
I mean,
And so sometimes when people complain, I tell them they can do that, but I post them because people ask for them. But the point is that it's not going viral. But people, when they do want to, go find a who's playing, they do go to it
yeah.
and they go and seek it out. And so I think each one of those listing posts, when I used to post them as posts and not as stories, they used to probably get like 500 to 1,500 views each, um, which is not that many. I would post like 1 to 3 a day. Um, but what that does over time is, after those artists share it and people find out, oh, okay, that's a thing, and they took that away in their brain that that's a thing, and then next time they need it, they go find it.
Yeah.
So it's not a go viral page, but it's like a resource,
Yeah.
and it's become a resource that I've noticed that people use.
That's good. I mean, it's funny that you've mentioned a few times that people will literally reach out. I guess that's how you know things are really sticking
Yeah,
in the
and I tell you,
community.
like
So,
the things you see Awesome Music Love doing, those are the things that stuck because I've done a lot of different things that did not stick,
yeah.
and I'm just not doing them. I just
Yeah.
don't see them
No, that's
anymore.
fair. So, what do you think about the term live music capital of the world?
It's a great question. I saw that one on the. I've been asked that before, and I've talked to a lot of people about that before
Yeah.
because I think the general consensus is like we don't necessarily feel that, because part of it is from the artist standpoint. The artist plight, of course, is that the wages are not high enough
Yep.
overall. That's basically it. Maybe you can argue demand is not high enough, but the truth is there is a lot of demand. So from the demand side, there's way more demand for live music here than other places per capita. There's also way, 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 way more musicians here per capita than other places. Like, for example, if you just use as a heuristic, like go to Gig Salad, like we were talking about earlier, and see how many artists are listed or Wedding Wire in the Austin area. And I said in Austin, you might find like 500.
Yeah.
Well, you go to Dallas or Houston, you're going to see about the same amount, but the
Mm,
population is drastically different.
yeah.
It's about 5 times. So per capita, way more musicians.
Yeah.
And that's just a heuristic. I'd estimate there's a lot more than that, based on other things like my Google form and things like that. And so demand's actually pretty good, but the supply is so much more that the artists feel like, well, wages are low. It doesn't really feel like exactly a renaissance of music around here.
Hmm.
So I think that's one of the counterpoints to it.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, how can anyone be well traveled enough to know compare it to the world, right? But if we just compare with U.S. cities like Nashville, it's a totally different thing from Nashville. First of all, um, it's just a totally different culture. I'm not an expert on Nashville. I don't know if you've been there, but from everything I hear, it's a totally different type of scene, and there's a lot more musicians as well.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't that be a live music capital? I'm not sure.
Yeah. I've had a few, Erica Daniels, who was a guest on the show, was talking about how in Nashville, the big difference she felt, and I've spent a weekend in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
And granted, you're on Broadway, which is like going down Sixth Street,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
but she just felt like music was literally everywhere you turn in terms of just people playing everywhere. And if that's your definition of live music capital of the world, I think that's fair. But um, it's an interesting point that you bring up about the wage game not really being up to what musicians need and require, and so um, use the term renaissance. Excuse me, and I think that's an interesting way to look at it. Like, so do you feel like the artists that are in town maybe just aren't as excited about Austin as they once were?
That's the other thing is I haven't been here long enough. I've been here less than 10 years, so I don't feel
Yeah,
like I'm not one of these guys like, "Oh, it used to be this way." I
yeah,
don't really know. What I do know is happening on the ground now with people in my community.
yeah.
And I think so one thing I did was I did a survey where I got 100 artists to respond that were working artists,
Hmm.
and 50%. So actually I'll ask you. I asked how many of you are full-time music, you have a full-time job, you do this on the side, you have a part-time job. What would you say is the distribution of working artists that you would see on a Friday night playing somewhere who have a full-time job or that are full-time music, let's say? What
Um,
percentage?
60 to 70%?
15.
15.
15%. About 50%, half, have a full-time job. About 30% were a part-time job.
Okay.
And then 15 full-time, there's 5% of different things like, the spouse is the
Yeah,
breadwinner or
yeah, yeah,
something of that nature. So half the people out there that you're watching on the stage and any stage, in Austin, minus maybe like the Moody Center or something like that, they all have full-time jobs, you know?
yeah,
And so it doesn't feel like exactly the live music capital of the world if someone can't make a living
yeah,
doing live music. And the people that are doing it, full time, honestly, a lot of people that have the full time job, they probably could do it full time. It's not that they absolutely can't. It's like, maybe they'd rather have a little bit more lifestyle than what
yeah,
would afford them if
yeah,
they were doing just live music. And that's totally fair. So, and
yeah,
they might be family people would be like,
right.
well, it doesn't fit my lifestyle to do it full time, even if they have the talent, the ability, and the connections, and every other ability to do it.
Yeah, that's an interesting stat, though. Are you
Yeah,
gonna run another poll like that soon?
I'd
You
like
should.
to because I think it was interesting to a lot of people.
Where did you run the poll through, or how did you get it out?
My email list.
Email us? Okay. Man, that's some I'd be interested to see, like, if you ran that something with a strong partner like the Statesman or somebody who has a
Big
citywide
reach.
reach like that.
Yeah, one of the things is like also controlling the data because I know in my list, I know who's in there,
Yeah,
and so I know they're all working musicians.
I got you.
So I can make sure that they're Austin and that they're actually.
Yeah, okay.
It's not like someone who like doesn't really get out there or whatever, and they just so if I did it really publicly, it would be a little harder to control the accuracy. I feel like.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
always tough thing with surveys. I'm a data guy, so it always bugs me whenever I see like stats. Stats bug me a ton, no matter where they are, because people will say like, "Oh, this is X percent this," or whatever, and I'm just like, "Well, how did you get to that conclusion?" Because there's a million things. So if you go to justmusicians.com and you go to the blog, the first blog post is this study that we're talking about,
Okay.
and so you can see every question and breakdown of the graphs. And I do what I would consider as a diligent job of being a steward of the data and describing how I collected it, how this question is kind of skewed because of the way I asked it. And so consider that this might not be, because consider these things. So I like to make sure it's broken down so people understand, like, look, this is how I collected it. I sent it to my email list. This is who's on the email list. So just as a grain of salt, you need to know
Hmm.
I didn't go and like necessarily go with fine tooth comb and figure out exactly who everyone is. But, it's still curated. So I try to be a good steward of the data and show those stats. Um, and so I just care about that stuff. So I'm saying,
Interesting.
like, it's stats just bug me. People take them for granted, and like, it's really hard
I
to
mean, I would
to
gather
work with data.
some people, myself included, don't think twice about what the data pull is whenever they see a
You
stat.
should
So,
you should check out a book. It's a short book. It's called How to Lie with Statistics.
how to lie with statistics.
Super short book, and
All
it's
right.
great. Read a lot of pictures, so it's great for me because I
All right.
don't read
There
too
you
good.
go.
But yeah, how to lie with statistics because it'll show you how with the exact same data set you can create two different graphs or two different you know analysis of the data that are completely opposite conclusions.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. It's
Interesting.
just eye opening.
So, how do you think? And I know you said obviously you're not from here and not everything, but how do you think we keep whatever Austin music is Austin music? And I don't say whatever facetiously because
Yeah.
I say whatever because everybody has their own definition.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but in your opinion, how do you keep awesome music awesome music?
I would venture to say, like, someone who's been here for 30 years probably have something real to say about, like, what makes Austin, Austin and things like that.
Hmm.
But I'd venture to say it's really it's just about connection to who's making the music. Um, if everything was commercialized and everything was, you know, packaged up
Yep.
in a bow, then it's not gonna feel authentic. And so I think probably when people think of what makes Austin music, what they're really thinking of is knowing where, the farmer lives that grew the crop is really what it is.
It's a great way to put it.
It's just about community. So I think that's similar feeling with what Grayson was saying about house concerts. I think he was the one that said about
Mhm.
that's essential to Austin music because when you do the house concert, you get to know the artist. When you do a listening room show, you talk to the people who are listening and they show their personality
Yeah.
and they say, yeah, I live down the street and they're,
Yeah.
whatever. Uh, I don't know if I think we might have talked about it, but Bart Crow lives in this neighborhood.
In my neighborhood?
Yeah, in Easton Park.
What?
Yeah, you know Bart Crow, right?
Yeah, of course.
Um, and he during COVID, he did a backyard concert or a front yard concert. Like he's opened his garage and he was like posting on social media, like, "Hey, we're doing this, whatever." And that's awesome music right there. It's just
Yeah.
community because Bart Crow is like, "Yo, just come hang out in the front yard."
Yeah.
I think that is one of the most awesome music things ever,
Yeah.
and I think what it comes down to is just the community connection.
Well, and you have the godfather of awesome music, and Willie, right?
Yeah,
And all he has ever been about is his family and his community. And it's so strong, and it's very apparent that that's why he does what he does. Even at his current age, his 90th birthday party. Granted, it was in Los Angeles, but
mhm,
all that was just all of his friends and family up on stage to celebrate him. And I think that's my definition of live music capital of the world, the community aspect of it. And I think that's how you keep awesome music. Awesome music is, and that's when I first moved here. One of the things that I caught on to pretty quick was, I'd go see a Croy and the Bowies show, and I'd go see him at venue A, and they'd be opening for somebody else. But then the next weekend, they were the closer that night, or the headliner, and the person who headlined after them is now opening for them, and it just seemed like there's just that community,
yeah.
and so um, that's my answer to that question.
Well, can I run by another idea for you that I think I think would be awesome for keeping Austin music Austin or really in any community building connection is when you walk into a store, whether it's Walmart or like some boutique shop on South Congress,
Mhm.
you're hearing music.
Yeah.
There's music everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
You can hardly do anything without
Mhm.
music. It's the truth. But what's playing is top 40.
Yeah.
Or those boutique shops, they'll curate, they'll play something different, but like
Yeah.
they're pulling it off Spotify.
Yeah.
Under 1,200 under 1,200 square feet, you don't need performance licenses. You can just play off your user Spotify account. Um, so they're playing whatever. Even people that they'll get away without paying the PROs if
Yeah.
they want to. They'll skip it, whatever. But point is, they should be playing local music.
Yep.
You know,
Great point.
and that's one of the ideas that I was gonna maybe do instead of just musicians is AML streaming, which is to build a streaming platform that's just it's not necessarily just local because it could expand nationally, but it has geography built into it so that if you're in Texas, you can say, okay, I only want to play stuff from Texas. Or if you're in Austin, you can say, I only want to play stuff from people in Central Texas.
Man, you should follow up on that because that sounds awesome.
And that way, when you walk into a store, whether it's a gas station or the HEB, what's playing up there, if you Shazam it, it's someone who lives in this area, who's based out of this area.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a huge community thing. Even think of like a venue, in the off hours, like they just opened and they're playing death metal because it's, whatever, it's like Little Darlin'
Mhm.
or something. And then the guy at the bar is like, "Who is this?" And they Shazam and it's a local because they know it's playing local music. Like we should get these people to play here. I think that would be huge for
Yeah.
community and local music, because if people just know that when they walk into a place, what they're hearing is something that was made by the farmer down the street, not by the Monsanto Corporation,
Mhm.
that, I think that would be huge. So I started running the numbers a little bit on that idea. It would take a little investment to do it with the
Mhm.
royalties and different things. And I
Yeah.
and I, I didn't even get to the beginning of figuring out exactly what needs to be done in terms of the legal.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think that if anyone listening wants to steal that idea, go ahead, steal the idea. I want it to happen.
Yeah.
If I come
It's a
around
good
to it,
man
I
out
will
there.
do it. But anybody who wants to steal it, you steal it.
That's awesome. And one thing that kind of just popped in my head was, and you were talking about the neighbor aspect of it all, and um, you know, you go to a venue here in town, and you might see Two Tons of Steel, or you know, the Wagoneers, Dale Watson, whatever. I'm thinking of Broken Spoke as I
Yeah,
name
yeah.
these bands off. But then also those guys, then you went home, they were your neighbors. Then also they're like big time musicians, big time national touring acts,
Mhm.
but they just so happen to be your neighbors,
Right.
right? And so that was
Like Midland,
yeah, exactly.
just regular dudes.
Yeah. And so, I feel like that is still alive and well in Austin. You know, and that's wild. I had no idea Bart Crow was my neighbor, but that's a perfect example right there
Yep.
of him opening up his doors and wanting to do a concert in his yard. Um, that's awesome, man. So where is the next Austin Music Love concert series?
So there's one May 10th,
Okay.
Saturday night, May 10th in East Austin.
All right.
Awesome place, one of my favorite places to do it. And then there's another one at Cedar Park on May 18th.
All right. And you gonna try to kind of jump around the city like that, try to cater to different neighborhoods?
Yeah, yeah, mostly just go with people who I think are great hosts, and where it happens to be, it happens to be. I think a lot of the audience is more downtown South Austin.
Yeah.
So Cedar might, when I do a show up that far north, usually it's a little bit less turnout, but
Yeah.
if it's a great host, great artist, it doesn't really matter to me. So,
Nice.
um, so yeah, Cedar Park, and then hopefully one in July.
Okay. So what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Austin Music Love DM might be the messiest way to get a hold of me, but you can find the email also in the
Okay.
Instagram, Austin Music Love. The email is admin@austinmusiclove.com. So you can find that through Instagram. I'm not on a whole lot of other social medias other than Instagram.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate you being here, man. I've learned a lot in our quick hour here just talking. But thank you for all that you're doing to continue to build this community. I mean, if it wasn't for people like you, a random guy wouldn't be able to host a podcast about Austin music in his office. So thank you for what you're doing, and looking forward to continuing to hang out and check out what y'all got going on over there.
Thanks for having me, Steven.
All right. We'll see you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Know someone we should talk to? Give us a shout on Instagram at Austin Music People. Tell your friends, tell your family, and get out there and support Austin music.